Hello and welcome to another episode of Recruiter Wins. My name is Zach Gallinger and I'm the founder of Talent Hero Media, a digital marketing agency that works exclusively with recruiters. In this podcast, we sit down with a highly successful recruiting expert to ask them a single question. Tell me about your biggest recruiting win. Our guest today is Daryl Rosenstein, founder of the Rosenstein Group. He is one of the OG recruiters in the marketing tech space, having worked in that area for the past 25 years. Welcome to the show, Daryl.
Thank you so much, Zach. It's very nice to be here.
So, as I do with all guests, I'm going to ask you that question right now. Tell me about your biggest recruiting win.
Well, my biggest recruiting win led to 16 placements with the same company. And it started out because I was passionate about the type of solution they were providing. My biggest recommendation to any of the recruiters that I've hired is to follow your passion in terms of what kind of solution or what kind of space it is that you're going to serve, because that's going to drive your curiosity and you're going to learn more about it. And the more you learn about a particular space, the more you learn about the business problem that is being addressed by your client, the better you're going to be at helping them find other individuals that are going to be passionate about solving that solution, whether they're engineers, accountants, or sales and marketing professionals, which is my specialization. But it started back in 2000 when I was working with, at the time, the largest technology recruiting firm in the Silicon Valley, Hall Kenyon. And we were working with US Web CKS, which was a huge agency, and they were implementing Blue Martini at Levi's. I love clothes. I've always been a clothes horse, and what they were doing with Levi's just spoke to me. So I found a way into US Web CKS. I placed my first director of project management there, and I was off to the races in terms of my interest in e-commerce, which was brand new at that point. I worked with a couple of e-commerce providers, but then I heard of Demandware, and they were the first SaaS provider for the mid-market. I reached out to their VP of sales at the time, Jeff Barnett, and we had a great conversation about what they were doing, why they were different, what they were doing better than the companies beforehand. And that led to several placements because I was one of the only recruiters that had actually had that conversation, that really fundamentally understood their competitors, understood why they were better, was interested in what they did that other companies didn't, and wanted to help them from a position where I had knowledge that they didn't have. I had knowledge of their competitors. I'd worked with their competitors. I had a network of people that were spooled up on their space, their solution, and would appreciate what they did that was different. Then they hired Brian Callahan, their VP of sales, and we went on to collaborate on another 13 placements. And what I found throughout that journey is that each placement led me to learn more about the space itself, about e-commerce, and about marketing technology, and to bring insights to not just the hiring manager, but to the rest of the team during the interview process that would allow them to do a better job of qualifying the candidate and of engaging the candidate's interest and of, I would believe, doing a better job of delivering their solution to their customers, because the individuals that I was finding were more and more and more knowledgeable about and excited about that space. So I guess the fundamental lesson here is, at least in the sales and marketing space, the most successful individuals are the ones that are the most curious. So if you want to engage them, you've got to be curious about what they're curious about. And that means, really digging in and learning about the industry that your clients are serving, not just serving the industry of your clients.
Right.
That makes you more transactional.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's a great story. And I think it leads me to a few questions that I sort of came to mind as you were sharing it. first off, you said that like you spoke with Demandware, one of the, I believe it was a VP there, and that kind of led to several placements. And you've also shared that, you know, one of your, I guess, differentiators is your passion and curiosity. So when it comes to like a meeting like that with, someone senior, how do you convey that passion and curiosity to make sure that they understand that like you're the right person for the job?
One of the things I did was I brought up the other companies that I knew they competed against, and I said, "What do I'm familiar with their solutions, and I've visited a couple of the sites that they're hosting, right? That they're deployed on right now. What are you doing differently that's going to allow you to displace them in the market?" And that was a great lead in. What's your secret sauce? What's your differentiator in the market? I was placing sales executives, and if they're going to be successful, there's got to be something better about the solution they're joining than where they're coming from. So I was getting him to, demonstrating to him that I understood that. They understood that he needed people that had an advantage in the market.
So you're kind of like interviewing them, I guess, in a way, right? Because usually, I mean, my strategies doesn't typically involve like asking them to sort of set themselves apart. But I think that's a really interesting technique.
I definitely come at it from the perspective of my candidates. So
Right.
I want to be as much of an advocate and do their homework for them so that they can have more time to really cover very specific things during their interview process and make sure this is the right fit for them versus kind of going through the drag of tell me everything about your company.
Right. So another question. You've worked with this, you've worked with this client for, a number of placements over the years. Besides the passion and curiosity, what do you think helps turn a single placement into like that decade long partnership?
There's a couple things. One, making sure that the rest of the team at the organization is aware that you were the one that delivered and engaging them. So I did make a conscientious effort to identify the other individuals that were in collaborative or management positions within that organization and let them know, hey, I'm doing this and this individual now. And I just wanted to introduce myself if there's anything I can do for you.
This is
And
kind
the
of like
other
after one of the first placement happens, you just kind of like cold email them or cold call them and give and introduce yourself. I
combination.
guess it's not cold, I guess, because you obviously have a very warm relationship at this point with the company, but that person may not know you. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
but definitely you've got to be your own advocate within an account. If it's a large account, they don't know you're working with them, and particularly if you have an interceding HR person in the mix, the HR person isn't going to say, "I hired so and so from Zach Gallinger." They're going to say, "It did come from a recruiter." So do yourself a favor, reach out to those hiring managers, let them know who you are, and ask them if there's anything you can do differently to make their experience better.
Got it. Okay. That's interesting. Anything else you think sort of helps with that like partnership forming?
Well, I think that feeding the hiring managers that you're working with the insights that you're gathering from the marketplace about their competitive vendors, their partners, if they have partners that they're working with, about their industry in general, to that they may not have or they may have articles that you see that are directly relevant to them. All of that adds value. All of that adds value to their day, and they're busy folks. So adding value whenever you can is going to be recognized and it's going to be rewarded.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Is that something you're sending in like an email or, are you calling them, asking to chat? So like to give them that information that you've sort of learned?
It really depends on the topic. If I know that a company that they consider extremely competitive or they hold in very high regard for whatever reason is experiencing a real change in business, and it might benefit them or impact them, I'll usually pick up the phone and let them know. Are you, if they're aware of it, and let them know if there's anything I can do to help them take advantage of that. If it's something like an article that I read in a publication that they would want their product publicized in, like Internet Retailer Magazine, I'll just take that link and I'll send them via email. Hey, thought you might find this interesting, along with maybe my thought. And that's something that they may, when they're taking time out of their day to just relax and want to just read something, it's relevant and it adds value. It's kind of like be their bookmark for them.
And here's a pragmatic question. I mean, how many hours per week would you say you're spending to stay on top of this industry? Because I know, speaking to other recruiters, it's something I've thought about a lot. Like, how do you become an expert in your field? But to be honest, it's not something that gets brought up a lot in my discussions. Not to say other recruiters are not an expert, but it's surprisingly rare for it to be like the top selling point, I guess I would say, for a recruiter. And maybe that has to do with the time commitment. I'm just wondering.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of a news hound. I love to read the
Hmm.
news.
Same. I
And
get that.
it's kind of how I start my day. So I know that the publications that I'm subscribing to that are really covering that industry, I'm spending a good 10 to 15 hours a week just following them because I'm also doing that in my free time. I don't consider that all work.
Right. That's a pretty hefty time commitment, but I guess if you enjoy the reading, it's fine. I mean, I'm somebody who probably spends that amount of time reading the news, so I get it.
Yeah,
Like it's not a
double that
job.
for the news too. I mean, that's kind of how I
Yeah.
start my day.
Okay. Yeah, that's a serious commitment to staying on top of things. I think that's kind of, for me, I think that's all the questions I have. So I just wanted to thank you again for joining us today. That's a lot of very interesting insight, and I really appreciate the passion and curiosity angle. That's a new one in an industry where sometimes, niches are not chosen for that exact reason. So thanks again, Daryl.
My absolute pleasure.
Have a good day.
You too.